Can I tell you quickly about the new Dodger Stadium? Because it's kind of cool because
New?
it's all like revamped. The revamped Dodger Stadium. It's you know how there used to be a smoking, ladies and gentlemen watching at home. There used to be a smoking section at the back of Dodger Stadium. That is now gone, and it looks a bit like a Mall of America kind of style thing back there. But it was really nice with a 10% capacity because you could just walk around a Shake Shack or the little Hall of Fame.
There's no lines or
area.
anything. Yeah.
No lines. Big Tommy was sort of bobblehead. So it was really nice.
I am enjoying
I
stuff like that. Like, because I go to the gym now and I swim, and it's only like two people, like only two lanes open, and only you reserve the pool for 30 minutes. So it's just you just by yourself, and it's great because every time you go, there's so many fucking people in the pool. I'm like, that I feel like it's unsanitary. I think they should just keep it like that, like forever. I like it like that.
We better enjoy it while it's here. It was like that because in that first couple of weeks of the pandemic, when I was out on my mountain bike and not even cars were on the road. Do you remember that? The first few weeks of the pandemic, there wasn't even cars. And I was out on my bike, and I was getting my GoPro and stuff, and I was like, this is going to be great. But I took a kind of not lazy, but a relaxed approach to it because I didn't realize traffic was going to return so quickly. So we have to enjoy this period now where we're at with this 10%, 30% capacity stuff. It's kind of fun. And there's bullpen bars, which I think is cool.
Oh, okay.
At Dodger Stadium, so you can drink and whatever.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Have drunk people right next to the bullpen, so they'd be like, "Hey, fuck you fucking bitch."
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Let's build. I want to talk about our guest tonight because this is really fun. I met him several years ago, but I hugely admire this man's career. His creative output is insane on many levels, not just as a stand-up, but as a stand-up comedian who identified a whole bunch of other ways to entertain people many years ago. Like, to me, he's got one of the best online series, and Henry's Kitchen's always made me laugh, and his stand-ups always made me laugh. And he makes movies. I always have questions for him about, like, how do you make movies? I ran into him in the street last year when I had finished writing a movie script, and I was like, what do I do? And he was giving me tips. He was like, you got to do read throughs. He's the kind of guy who has so much experience in our industry that he's always got wisdom coming out of him, and things that I couldn't even perceive until he says it, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So superstar. So we've got Henry Phillips on the show.
Yeah, he's great. Like a lot of the things you said, obviously, I support as well. But also, I think for me, it was like I always been a huge fan of him too. When I started doing comedy, just watching him, also because what I like about him is that he's so different than me, like in terms of like his comedy, and like I really appreciate that of like, oh, you can be funny being totally different. You know what I mean? Being like, because he's quiet, he's just like very like monotone, but he's so funny and so hilarious. And I find that because that's stuff that I don't have, or that it's not naturally to me. And I'm like, I gravitate to that. And like you said, I mean, the fact that he's so talented as a stand-up, but also he's wrote, he has two movies right now, Punching Henry and Punching the Clown, are both playing Amazon Prime.
Great and relatable.
Hilarious movies.
Yeah.
And then also he has a new series that I got part of, my girlfriend too. It's called Highwayman, which is very funny. You can check it out on Patreon. And they're great too.
I saw that you posted a still today. I saw that you were in it.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, I'm really excited to check that out. I said to somebody today, I said he's such a great comedian because his subtlety hits hard.
Yes.
Which is such a great skill. Well, should we you want to
let's do it. Let's go. Let's listen to Henry Phillips, and we had some very funny stories from him. So especially his family traveling story. I think that's one I was cracking up on that one. So here it is, episode 26, Henry Phillips. Bye. you, Henry?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic, man. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, good to see you guys. I haven't seen both of you since was that Francisco's birthday that we had over at the
Oh, that's
Formosa?
right. At the Formosa Cafe. That's right. Yeah.
I guess that would have been coming up on 2 years ago, huh?
I think so. Yeah.
I did run into you in the street.
That's right.
A few months mid-pandemic or whatever.
It was like Hollywood and Vine or something.
Yeah, it was you and I were the only ones on the street as well.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was like, it was complete Hollywood ghost town situation.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, the only guy here, and I know who that is. I was like, hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, I remember.
So that's a nice little run in. How's the pandemic been treating you?
Well, it's almost done, right?
Yeah. The first few weeks was actually very. I mean, I'm gonna say I kind of enjoyed it because it was like because we're always at the rat race or whatever, trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever, and I felt like everybody gets a little free time here to catch up on stuff, and so I started just working on some things, organizing stuff that I'd been putting off, and I was working out a little bit and running, and then like after about a month of that was all gone. And I was like, all right, what do we do now?
Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel like I was a different person every month. I think.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely guilty of revisiting my alcoholic 20s at one point.
Oh, for sure.
I think it was the month of June last year. I had liquor bottles by my bed. Then I clean up. Then I have that really sober month and revisiting my 30s or whatever. And then, it was all different. And then I think I microdosed mushrooms all of August last year.
Oh, wow.
So JJ, and September, JJ joined a rehab.
It's like you made the pandemic go by like in 3 days. Yeah. But, there was an interesting thing that happened. Remember, there was a lot of musicians that died early on. There was like John Prine, who I had never really gotten super into his stuff, but when somebody dies, that's when you start listening to their playlists and stuff. And I remember Deborah and I. Deborah's my wife. She was my fiance at the time, and that's how bad COVID was. No, that doesn't make sense.
Hey, that's a road joke right there.
Yeah, exactly. Hey.
At least all of us know that you and Deborah were together like before the pandemic.
Absolutely.
It was good.
Comedians, there's a couple comedians who have gotten married in the pandemic, and they were single at the start of the pandemic.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, did you already have the wedding?
Yeah, we did. We did have the wedding, and
what's
just
that
occurring to me now that I didn't invite you. This is awkward. Wow. No, actually, there were literally only 5 people present. It was in Joshua Tree, and it was my best friend from high school, Deborah's best friend, and her sister. Mm-hmm. And her friend officiated the wedding, and it was literally the 5 of us in an Airbnb in Joshua Tree, and it was fantastic. We just had a great time. Nice. It was before the major shutdown here that happened in like November or December or whatever. So we were able to go out, and we went to an outdoor patio barbecue place where they had a band and everything. So we had a really good time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, was it in Pioneer Town?
Yeah, that's exactly where it was.
I know that. Yeah. What's the name of it?
Harriet.
I went with Harriet's Pappies. Yeah. I think I went there too during Pioneer Town during that time. I think it was maybe it was the same time you were having your wedding, but I wasn't invited. But I just went there by myself.
Oh, but you just went there to be near it?
I went there to be near, just in case I got the call.
Yeah, you were there the night before. Just hey, wow, this is weird. I didn't know you guys were here.
It was like you and JJ in Hollywood. Yeah, it was like, hey, I know that guy.
Look at this, man.
But
that's great.
Deborah and I got on this tradition. Yeah, thank you. We got on a tradition of early on in the pandemic, we would have cocktails, and we were putting together a jigsaw puzzle at the time, and we would just run the playlist of whatever artist died that week. There was like Eddie Money. I know it's pretty morbid, but we got introduced to a lot of great music. Bill Withers was another one. I mean, I knew some of their stuff, but it's just an excuse to really go all in. I mean, it's sad that somebody has to die before we start getting really into their stuff. But
yeah, it's always like that, right?
Yeah, Rico Kasich, and there were so many.
You really win the top trumps when you are talking to friends. But what are you up to? And some people are making sourdough bread. So everybody's trying a new hobby, and you and Deborah are going, well, we're listening to whoever died that day.
Yeah.
Henry,
even if we're fans,
do you also listen to when somebody's career gets killed?
Oh yeah. No, we did. We listened to some.
Okay. Like they don't die, but like their career dies.
Yeah, I wish I had a name ready. I was going to say Roseanne, but that's already dated. But yeah, we listened to when a show ended. We'd watch that. No,
nice.
Actually, I really do that. That's not a big deal. But I mean, so that was So I have fond memories of that experience anyway.
Of COVID and your wedding.
The beginning of COVID, like the first couple months, because there was a lot of
you ran out of dead
quiet time. Yeah. Eventually, people stopped dying. People started quarantining, and then the deaths went down, and then that was it. Just had to deal with a lot of living people.
Well, cool. Are you excited for a return to normal creeping in, so that there's going to be gigs and stuff coming back?
Yeah, I really am. I never really thought, because I was already kind of making my retreat from stand-up, like right before the thing happened. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I was doing a couple of gigs, but only if all of the terms were exactly what I really, I don't want to sound like a dick, but if the money was too low, then I wasn't going to do it. I mean, that's just where I was at.
That's just being respectful of your career. I mean,
and I wasn't necessarily getting a lot of great offers, but I was just like, okay, this obviously, if people aren't banging down the door to try to get Henry Phillips, it might be a sign that I need to start thinking about other stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and it's a little bit of a grind, I mean, for 20 years straight, I was going to LAX a couple of times a month, and just like bookending a week. Well, you guys probably know that, like, you can either put 2 weeks together, so you're just gone the whole time.
Yeah.
Or you can, if you're just so sick of being on the road, you can fly back for like 2 days. And it's like, I never was able to figure out which one I preferred. They both kind of sucked equally, It's just like spending a full day at the airport, but to me that was better than sitting in the hotel for 2 days straight waiting for the next gig to start. So it's like, I don't.
And you do that thing here in America as well when you're doing weekends. You guys do a lot of radio, don't you, to promote it?
Oh yeah. So your sleep schedule's a mess. Oh yeah, I'd fly in, and when you're coming from LA, you're always losing hours,
Yeah.
So Sorry. Yeah, no, that's all right. I get in at like 11 p.m., which is like 8 p.m. my time, and I have to wake up at 4:30 or 5:30 the next morning to sound a little bit fresh by the time I get on the radio. And I'm not even I'm not even tired, It's just like, that was tough.
No, I think I think what you said is very hard too, like to choose, like being on the road is just not fun. I mean, it's like, because, I mean, unless you're like a level that you can, like you said, pick and choose.
On your own terms,
On your own terms. And like, this is the month that I'm going to perform, and this is the venues I'm going to perform, and this is the hotels I'm going to stay at. And so you like pick, and I mean, which is, then that makes it even obviously much better, because now it's just, and also like you have like, okay, I'm just going to perform on this dates, which I think that to me, that's be the goal, right? To choose like, all right, this summer.
I never had that leverage.
It's hard. I mean, it's very hard to get into that point. I mean, because as comics, we got to perform when we get cold.
And make no mistake, I mean, for 20 years, to say I loved it is an understatement. I used to love, especially, I mean, when you're young, it's like you get off the plane and you're like, all right, a whole new town. What's going on here? This is going to be great. Like I used to really get excited about being in a new town, and I used to explore all the time and really enjoy it. And I'm an outgoing person. I usually made a lot of friends, when I was out at these places, and I'd go every year. So they became like really good friends, But I mean, that just kind of wore
Well,
off.
that's funny because for me it has been the opposite. Like when I first started going on the road, I was like, ugh, I don't like this at all.
Oh, yeah,
because it was like small towns and doing college gigs and like you have to drive all. I'm like, this is not, But now I think I've enjoyed. Because now I know what I'm getting, so now I enjoy more when I go on the road. Like I know like the experience of it, and I'm more open to it, or more like so I enjoy it more. But yeah, in the beginning I was like, it wasn't like what you had. For me, it was like, I know.
See, I'm 100%. I'm on board with Henry's thinking as well. Like when I started as well, I was just excited everywhere I was going. Like if we're getting paid to go to these little village, like even if it's a little village or a comedy in a pub on a Thursday night, and then you can walk around a sleepy town on a Friday. I love that as well. But I guess as we get older.
Yeah,
as we get older, we're just like, oh god,
that's the thing.
Really gets on your tits,
When you get older, it's just tough. It's just tough just to get up.
Everything's tough. Sleeping is tough.
Yeah. Eating is tough. It's like you can just eat. Like, wait, I can't eat fucking McDonald's at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
you're gonna be messed up the whole day.
Yeah, because to your point, Henry, of like trying to get the timing right and stuff. Like I went to the UK, I did 4 months in the UK last year, and now I'm officially based here and everything. But going back, or not last year, sorry, in 2019, sorry, of course not last year.
Yeah, there's a whole year skipped.
In 2019, I did 4 months. I did all the clubs and promoters that I hadn't done for like a year or whatever, packed it into 4 months, and it was too long. I was like, oh my god. What did I do to myself? And now I'm trying to find that sweet spot too. I'm like, out of country, 3 weekends kind of maximum is nice. And if I have to go across the ocean, maybe a month or whatever, but none of this, like 4 months is just, it makes you start
That's too much. Yeah.
Wonder,
No, I did 38 cities. I think it was 2 months.
38 cities.
Yeah, opening for Stanhope in England, and so we probably did a lot of the same venues and stuff. And by the end, we were like, we got to get home.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is actually when we've met. We met in England. We partied in your hotel room in Nottingham. I think you guys were at Just the Tonic. I was at Jongleurs, and we met.
Just the Tonic. Yeah, I remember that. That was
Yeah, and
if I remember that, then I know why.
Yes, we all know why.
Remembering anything.
Yes, we were all very much enjoying our careers at that point.
That was an incredible show. I remember Nottingham. Yeah.
And Henry.
Because it was one of the few clubs that we did, and when you're in a comedy club, you're like, oh, cool, this feels like old times,
Yeah, especially one like Just the Tonic, because it's grassroots, because he spent so long to build that audience. So that that regular intense audience coming out to see you and Stanhope, it's you're gonna get good vibes there.
That was fun. Francisco, I cut you off earlier.
No, I got used to it because you cut me off from your own wedding too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'll never live it down.
Because you mentioned too that because now you're like transitioning from doing less stand-up to doing, because I mean you're an amazing actor. I mean, and you wrote 2 movies that are really funny, Punching the Clown and Punching Henry, which are in Amazon right now, right? Amazon Prime.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks,
and then also like I also started. Like we became buddies because I was a very big fan of your web series that you put on YouTube, from like Henry, from You and Your Fucking Coffee, and then from the Henry's Kitchen as well, and then and also the new one that you have, which is called The Highwayman.
Yeah,
which is really great. I got to be part of it as well. Even my girlfriend got to be.
You're in the pilot. Yeah, you guys are in the pilot episode.
Yeah. So everybody check that out. Go to henryphillips.com and you can find out all the web series and then you've been in Silicon Valley too, which is great too.
Yeah, I'd like to do more acting. I'd like to get more into that. But in the meantime, I'm having a lot of fun doing these web series, because they're kind of filling the void that
the creative void, right?
Yeah. You can.
And people are supporting you, right? Because they're Patreon supporters.
Yeah, I do it on Patreon. Yeah, so it's actually a career now. So like, in 2011, I remember in like 2010 hanging out with a bunch of people, comics in LA, and like there was one guy who had a video that went viral, and we were all like, how do you do that? How do you get a video that, and it was impossible. It was like a code that you'd have to crack, but it was impossible. You can't like line everything up so that something goes viral. You just had to kind of hope it happened. And I was lucky enough to have one. My chili video, which I made chili at my place, and I taped it like as if I was an amateur, like all these people on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it just did the rounds. And
which is what a great approach too, because in case anybody watching or listening who doesn't understand, but that stripped down approach of like, I'm gonna pitch it like I'm gonna make it look like it's an amateur, but there's obviously a great comic mind behind the delivery is so fantastic, because I imagine to this day those clips are still fooling people when they.
I hope so, man. That's my only, when I make them, I still make them. I'm always thinking, how do I not push it too far? I'd like most people to get it, but I'd like for some people to be like, this guy just put eggs in his vegan dish. You can't do that.
But you have gotten people that actually believe the show is like real.
Oh, right? Yeah. Oh, I've had so many. Yeah. But I tell you guys, JJ, do you know
the? Tell us.
Yeah, I know. Well, I thought of like 5 things at the same time.
It was so funny. It's like, I'll tell you guys. You know what? Well, actually, no, I'm not gonna tell you.
Like, I'm trying to say this without making it sound like it's a story, one of those stories you bring up just to credit drop or whatever, but
or to work on material or something.
But I literally, I remember going to Montreal in 2011.
Whoa, relax, Henry.
That's not even the part. But do you guys hear me okay? Because I'm going to do some serious drop-in stuff here. But I had a half-hour comedy special in Comedy Central. I had a few late-night shows, Kimmel. Yeah. And so when I went to Montreal, have you ever done, JJ, have you done the Nest? The Comedy Nest? No, I didn't say, have you ever done JJ?
I have
no, what? Oh, yeah. No, but I was going to say that festival.
I have done the Comedy Nest, yes.
But what's funny is that JJ's Canadian and he's not performing just for laughs, which is so weird.
Really? Not even in the, like, isn't there like a local version that happens?
Nothing.
There is, but I of course lived in Britain. And all right, well, we don't need to get into this, but yes.
Okay,
I even won the award with a ticket to Just for Laughs in Britain.
That's awful.
And I think Just for Laughs was angry. They were almost angry that a Canadian won the British award. So they kind of went, oh no, we'll take somebody else instead. Thanks.
It's like if they're having an orgy at your own house and they don't let you in it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
it was Come on, this is my house. At least let me watch.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a bit.
And then they get mad if you get in. Yeah.
But yes,
you win something.
That's my bed.
They get mad if you win.
To your actual question, though, yes, I have done the Comedy Nest because I've come through Montreal with when I've been in Montreal and done because the Comedy Nest goes late at night as well, and it's a lovely little room. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I was doing that show, and they had my picture, and they had credits and all that stuff, and I remember there was like 7 or 8 20-somethings that were showing up to the show, and they asked like, who's the comedian tonight, and I think they were even French speaking, and the guy behind the counter was like, oh, it's Henry Phillips. He does songs, he plays the guitar. You might have seen him on he has his own half-hour comedy special, whatever it was. And then they were like, nah, I don't, and they literally turned around and started leaving. And this is right when I was walking up, and I had my guitar and everything, and I could hear a lot of it, and I was depressed. And then, but then they saw me, and these guys were like, "It's the cooking guy. Oh, are you the one? We gotta go!" And they all bought tickets. Like 8 people just bought tickets, and that's when I was like, "Oh shit, this is really a real thing here." Like,
right? What's funny? So what's funny is like. Or what's interesting is that all the other credits that you have, people didn't recognize you from that, but they actually recognize you from your YouTube video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think it shows you now what the industry has. I mean, and that was like a bit back, but now I think it's even more like this. I feel like now, like doing any kind of like late night, or it's like it's more important to just have your clips on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram and stuff like that. I think you get more play, more people to view it, and more fans quicker.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that was my introduction to this new world that we were in, and I was just like, wow, this is and again, it sounds like I'm bragging. I am, but I'm trying to make it more of an interesting story. But like, I was getting recognized like at the airport and shit. It was just amazing.
Wow.
It was just like I didn't really get that. I mean, every now and then it would happen, but this was happening like a businessman with like a briefcase, that the kind of guy that is just you never talk to at the airport.
Yeah.
Just like he's like at the TSA or whatever. Security? It's been that long, but he's just like he looks at me and he's like, "Do you have some video of you making chili or something?" And I was like, "Yeah," but yeah, it was crazy. People were showing up to my shows, so that really changed everything. And I'm really lucky. Right. I'm really lucky that I had that happen, because again,
and that's a
video
is you can't predict it. Yeah, you can't predict it, and that's the cool thing about technology, which allows anybody of us to do what we want to do, and then people recognize you from that. Because in what other, like, I mean, if it was like the 70s or the 80s, how, like, for you to do that video, like, how that would not be impossible. Like, you would have to actually be hired to do a sitcom and the show, and you're the some shit like that. But now it's like
100%. Yeah, that's
how
the break. Yeah, man.
We're so lucky to be in this time. Now there's some people
and you're lucky too, Henry, that you were in control of that, because I like the fact that you put all your work into your art and your stand-up, but then also you created this other avenue that turned into something, and that that's not luck. That's a real artist branching out. But it's great that you were in control of that, because the other way it can go is when another entity is involved in something that makes you famous outside of your own stand-up, and then you're walking, they're like, "Hey, aren't you the guy that was on Cops?" or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you cooking chili at Cops?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that we need to embrace it. I mean, when I was doing comedy back in the 90s, again, not trying to name drop, but that's all it is.
Name drop in the 90s?
Yeah, that's it. I just name dropped a whole decade.
The best decade ever. Nice.
Yeah, no, but
is that when you started, by the way?
94 or something like that. And
wow. When I first moved to the US.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
94, yeah.
Wow. And so had you heard of me? No, I'm just kidding.
I actually moved there because I was like, "Hey, Dad, there's somebody in the US that
this
cooks
guy's playing
chili."
The improv, doing 5-minute sets. No, but at that time, the only
and you started in LA,
really
sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the only way you were really going to make it was you had to get on a TV show, like your own TV show, or You're the Wacky Neighbor.
Yeah.
And so that's really all there was. It was either that or you were doing the road and making $100 a night or whatever. But there wasn't really this like Dane Cook type thing where all of a sudden you just kind of come out of social media and then there's a millionaire. That didn't happen until like the 2000s.
No, yeah, right. Because of technology. But also the cool thing too, I was gonna say that it's also been get recognized for stuff that you have the control over, that it's something that you're proud of, because it's always a thing, like when you do a project that, let's say you get casted for a show and like that's the thing that gets you famous, and then you're like, oh, I hate that part. It's very annoying.
Like these reality TV show stars, like 90 Day Fiance. I don't know if you've watched that show, but they're all famous, but in a weird way. Like we know way too much about them. But I mean, in a way, it's sort of like, well, I guess you can't complain because you're famous. But yeah, I don't know if I'd want it that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I always say my rule is like every time you do something yours or for somebody else, make sure you're okay with it, because that's the thing that can get you famous. And then now you have to like, oh, now you're that guy, and if you don't And then if you're like the wacky whatever, you gotta go
totally. You're stuck. You have to do that. It's like when your mom used to say, "Don't make that face," because you might have to do it for the rest of your life.
That exactly.
She didn't know how smart she was.
Yeah, I feel that way too. That it's important that an artist, like not just comedians, but artists, as long as they're working on their art form too, whatever they do get famous for, as long as they can then capitalize because they're ready with their performance. Because of course, like your stand-up's always been on, your songs and everything that you've done has always been on point in stand-up as well. So that's why when Henry's Kitchen goes viral, then you're ready to capitalize. And I've seen that with some other stand-up comedians as well. I've seen the opposite happen as well. I've seen there was a comedian in Britain a while ago, maybe even when you were over, who raided the walls of Windsor Castle. He raided like Prince Harry's birthday or something.
What?
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
He called himself the comedy terrorist. He dressed up as Osama bin Laden and he'd raid the thing. Maybe it was so he got hugely famous off that, and he sold out his entire Edinburgh run just off the back of raiding Windsor Castle and making front page news.
And he wasn't good.
But yeah, people showed up to his Edinburgh show, so it was like a record sellout. But then within the first 2 nights of his Edinburgh show, everybody was asking for refunds and stuff because he
didn't have an act.
He didn't have an act or anything.
He
happened to scale over. And,
Wait, and we actually have a great question, Henry, from our audience, and because talking about your videos and on your stand up, it's like Tweet Pen just here. It's like, how do you find the balance between believability? Thank you, JJ.
Yeah.
And making satire obvious. Like, is it from experience or?
Yeah, I think it goes back like as long as I can remember. That is a great question, and I think I've always been that kind of guy that I don't have a lot of energy. Like I'm not a high energy type person, so I would often say jokes to my friends, like in high school and stuff, but I wouldn't put any humor into it. I would just be like, "Oh yeah, man, this thing happened," and they would just think it's real, because usually when someone tells a joke, they usually have some kind of a delivery or something that's making it feel like a joke. So I got kind of addicted to that, and that was always really fun for me to try to fool people. And I guess that's in a way what acting is, right? Like when you're watching a movie, like the closer it is to seeing, and of course Spinal Tap was the number one. I'm going to try to answer her question without jumping all over the place, but Spinal Tap was like the number one inspiration. I was like, they really did troll people. I watched it the first time with a guy who was like in his late 30s, who was kind of a stoner. But back then it was more of I guess he would have been a baby boomer. I mean, this is like 82 or whatever, but he was like, or maybe his 40s, but he was like, no, Spinal Tap's a real band. They're a totally real band, man. They're the loudest band in England. And we watched the whole thing, and I'm just going, no, these guys are taking the piss. These guys are making a joke. And this guy just the whole time. And then at the end, they had this little message saying, yeah, it's not real. And there's no Easter bunny either. And it was like, ooh, that was awkward for the guy. But so I guess the way you do it is to always ask yourself, like, if I were watching this, at what point would I be tipped off? Like as soon as you start saying things that people wouldn't say in real life, and people don't really talk in jokes the way that they do like on a sitcom, not that I mind. I mean, Cheers, it's awesome to watch just so many rapid fire one-liners. But if you're trying to fool something and somebody and make it believable, you can't really have jokes that sound pre-written. You have to make it feel like you're just talking. But another great part of her question is like, because our movies are a partnership with Greg Viennes, who's the director, and
he's a great guy.
Yeah, and so we oftentimes are troubled because we almost feel like if it were up to us, we would make a movie with 0 jokes in it, and that kind of well, that's great. You just made something really believable, but what's happening? There's nothing funny in it at all. So you have to push it a little bit to make it funny, So it is a hard line, but you have to just kind of just make sure that you don't go too far, but don't not go far enough,
Yeah. No,
And not be afraid to have some trial and error.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
To find that right tone, because that's the other thing. When stripped down, good satire seems really raw. It seems unpracticed.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, it seems raw and stale in front of there, but you're like, oh yeah, no, that would have taken quite a few practice runs to get those lines right to make sure that you're being believable, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and the technical way to answer her question would be to say unscripted. You know, like not like nobody knows where they're going, but make sure that you're not sticking to because people don't talk that way either. You know, like make sure that you're not trying to remember words; you're making them up as you're going along, but you know the beats that you're trying to get into. Curb Your Enthusiasm does that really well.
Yeah, and adding to that too, like you were saying, it's like I think great acting is making everything, like you said, like would I be with somebody if I'm watching this, would I would I like, oh, this is not real? But one thing I learned with acting is like you have to also know the tone of whatever you're doing, because in some tones, like you said, like Cheers or like a multicam.
Oh yeah,
doing the
or some Coen Brothers stuff. Like if you're in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? You know, I mean, that's like almost kind of an old school type of comedy. You know, you can't just be too dry there. You know.
So it's interesting to know. Like that's one thing I learned, because it's like sometimes you think it's like, oh, acting is you just have to be real, but like you said, but then it's like the tone needs you to be more, you know, like high energy, then you have to do it, because if not, it's not going to be believable in that universe of whatever.
I heard that Modern Family. When I first moved here, I went to a Modern Family audition. I remember them saying they want a certain rhythm. You got to do, and then I noticed it. I started watching Modern Family now, and I noticed, oh right, the writers and the directors, they want this specific rhythm out of all the actors, and I mean it's really great high firing comedy lines and stuff. But then when you watch it, you're like, oh right, they're all in this rhythm with each other. There's no nobody talks like that, really. Like I get that they're trying, that we're being given this realistic environment, you know, but
and also one thing that we forget about, or that not people forget, but like you always have to remember with acting or with any scene, is like it's always high stakes. Even if it's a boring, the most like simple scene, it has to be high stakes, because nobody watches like real life. It'd be boring just to watch real life.
In order for us to care, unless it's about somebody cheating on somebody or whatever. Like if the people behind you at the diner are all talking about, oh, did you hear that Jenny did blah blah blah? Then you start going like, oh, that's interesting. I want to hear. Yeah, there has to be high stakes. Yeah, in order for us to care. Or if we want to peep into somebody's window, for example, there has to be something going on. Oh, wait, where did I lose everything?
Wait. It has to be high ceiling too. Yeah. And I was gonna say, so when you going back to like when you started, so you never had to move, right? You always stayed in LA, or did you go to pursue comedy someplace else? Not like
I've always been in LA the whole time, but on the road a lot. So sometimes, like even when you said that, I'm like, did I ever live someplace else? Well, I'll tell you, Houston, Texas was a second home for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never lived there, but I'd stay there for weeks because I had everything there. In '99, I started working at the Laugh Stop there, which was like a paradise. It was just like a comedian's paradise. Every week would be, you know, Dave Attell, you know, Mitch Hedberg, Louis C.K., you know, Galifianakis, all these people. And then if I just hung around, he would let me go up and be the feature act. And then he started headlining me too. And I had a group of comics that I was hanging out with, and suddenly I got to feel what it's like to come up in a different city, because LA, it's a warped version of it. It's like you're not doing. I would never meet a guy like Dave Attell in LA unless we accidentally got stuck sitting next to each other at the Improv.
Yeah,
but a place like Houston, they'd throw me up there on his show, and then we'd have a beer afterward. You know, it was like a whole different experience. And that's one thing that I've always been jealous of comics that came up in a home club, because they'd meet a different headliner every week. And that's a huge part of getting advancing as a comic, is, you know, being in that community somehow, you know.
Learning and absorbing.
Houston was the second home for me, and just the road in general. And there were some that I did a lot more than others. Nashville was a big one, Cincinnati, Yeah, there were some that
you didn't go to Austin. Not a big Austin guy.
Yeah, I did in the later years, but I never worked the club. The club there I wasn't their cup of tea or whatever. And but I started doing the Velveeta Room there on 6th Street, but that was after I started doing shows where it was just a door deal, straight door deal.
Okay.
And that's harder to do unless you have at least 100 or a couple hundred people that are going to come and watch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now, with all this time on the road, I was wondering, and you being a musician, so this obviously, I'm assuming, a guitar costs more. You always have to make that consideration.
Oh yeah,
traveling on the road. So I was wondering about that, like how you have to, because I can go. I mean, it helps if I take a change of clothes with me, but I can go. But you have to make considerations for your weapon of choice that you need on the road with you. And that's going to lead me into my second question, because I'm just wondering, in your time as a comic, in this career, have you had like lucky guitars and stuff like that, or have you had like the same guitar, or do you just grab one off your wall and off you go?
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Like I always said, man, if I just showed up to the airport with just a suitcase or something, I probably would have done it a lot longer. But that was a huge pain in the ass. I didn't want to check it. I also didn't want to take it on with me, and then it was always a problem, But no, I've had 2 of them stolen.
Oh,
and
like in the plane?
No, over the years, just to answer your question about like the guitars, the first one,
I think they're behind you.
Yeah, no, those are other ones that one of them is a replacement. But the first one, there's a comic named Isaac Whitty. I don't know if you know Isaac. He's hilariously funny. We were in Minneapolis, and we went to a bar after the show. He had a rental car, but it was a hatchback, so you could see into it. And I put my guitar in the back seat or in the trunk. And we went to a bar, hung out, and it was even kind of a mediocre time at the bar. We were there for like an hour, and we're like, let's go. And then we're driving. And I was like, is it kind of windy in the car? And he's like, yeah, let's roll the window. And I was like, why are there shards of glass in the back of my neck? And then he's like, oh no, where's your guitar? And it was gone. And he was pissed too, because he had a rental car.
Yeah.
And so he had to pay all that shit, because I don't think he got the insurance or whatever. Yeah, it was a terrible night for both of us. But that guitar, I mean, I had all these musicians carved their initials in the back. Like, man. I did a show one time that was like a super group with Chris Novoselic from Nirvana and from Nirvana. What am I saying? And then who else was in it? Kurt Kirkwood from the Meat Puppets and the drummer from Sublime. And they all, like, we were all in a hotel together, and they carved. They had a carving knife or whatever, and they carved their names into my guitar, like as an autograph, and it was really awesome. And so
is that a pawn shop somewhere now?
Yeah, I was so bummed out about that. And then the other one, years later, was stolen in a very similar way, but this was on the set of our movie that we did in 2014.
What? It got stolen in your
it was in the prop truck that was left overnight someplace, and
fuck.
But the production did replenish it, so that was really cool.
Okay, that's good.
I was gonna say that. Were you going full method the next day?
Yeah. Oh man, that was tough. I happened to have had the same guitar case as my buddy Michael Connell. We just knew that we had the same guitar case, because that was everything, right? Like if you're doing a scene where I'm walking and it has to match, and it had like this red interior and then it was black on the outside or whatever. And so I told them, I said, I know a guy who has my exact guitar case, but if I didn't have that, it would have just been one of those things where you're like, oh, he's got a whole different guitar now, It's just like, so we got lucky on some of that, but yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Oh, that's all right.
Sounds like your dog's taking down another dog there. What's your?
No, it's stealing a guitar.
Oh yeah.
No, and I was gonna say something because of all that. I was gonna just go back to the whole travel, because you said you travel so much during your career. And is it mostly, or you always kind of by yourself? Because as we do, right? Like, what would you do to kind of keep the time between shows and stuff like that? Is there something that you would do, or that like you like to do when you're on the road? Or something?
Man,
have you ever gone to busked?
Have I gone to what?
And busked?
Oh no, I didn't do that. No, the last thing I wanted to do was comedy somewhere. People would be like, "Hey, come to my open mic night before you're." I'm like, "No way! Why? That's crazy."
Right.
No, I'm telling you, man. I enjoyed sleeping in, watching the Beastmaster or Bonanza, and ordering a pizza, and just like being like a teenager. Yeah, and then, but yeah, they'd always be like, hey, the Gerald Ford Museum is right here in town. And I'm like, I have no interest in doing that at all. I just want to do nothing until I have to work. I was really a night owl. I mean, it was all about the pre-show energy, doing the show, and then going out afterward to let off steam. I mean, that was what I lived for. So I didn't really do a lot of daytime stuff. I mean, maybe when I got older, I started exercising a little more. But yeah, I was definitely more about the club and hanging out and the nighttime stuff.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So when you eat, when you get your pizza in your hotel room, do you eat on the bed or do you eat in that little shitty corner table?
Oh no, I think I was always eating on the bed. Yeah.
Thank you.
One more.
I don't eat on the bed. I don't eat on the bed.
That's all right, Henry. That's how we're divided. I'm a eat on the bed guy, and Francisco is very much a sit in that little corner thing.
I can
cubicle.
see that. I can see you doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to what is this, like a 13-year-old girl sleeping, eating in the bed? No,
obviously it's adult men. We all not in the bed.
But the thing is,
I never had a 13-year-old girl in the bed when I was
No, I mean sleep. I just imagine JJ like this with his feet up, just eating, watching TV and having a slice, and it's and then hitting himself with a pillow, having a pillow fight. I was like, what is it?
Yeah, you should stop. You should stop imagining me like that.
I really enjoyed the relaxation of being in the hotel in the daytime. I would binge watch shows on my computer. Like Lost, I watched the entire thing in hotels, and I was addicted to it, and The Wire, and but there was something I was gonna say. Oh yeah, till this day, if I ever see a show like The Beastmaster, it's the second time I brought it up. That show is
what
so
is that
dumb.
show? I don't even know what that show is.
It's so dumb. It's about a guy who talks to animals or whatever, and it's a 3 p.m. Saturday show, but it's if I ever watch that show, it puts me in this place of I'm the most relaxed I've ever been. If you have time to watch that show, it's you don't have a lot of drama in your life. There can't possibly be, otherwise you wouldn't be watching The Beastmaster. It means that you've just sort of run out of things to do. But have you guys ever had this experience where people would always, once you started getting to be friends in a certain town, people, especially family couples, would be like, why don't you stay over at our place next time? I mean, we have a room, our kid's off to college, so you could stay in his room, and, you can have a home cooked meal instead of whatever that awful pizza is that you're doing. And I'm just like, why would I do any of that? That sounds awful.
It's so hard because you feel like you hurt their feelings, don't you? But
I know,
it's not about you. It's just about
but are these
all this space and this
I know, why would I ever it sounds more fun for them.
But is this people that you know, or people that
you'd know them. They start maybe as fans, but then they turn into friends, and then they'd always offer, and you're like, I mean, unless you're okay with me sleeping until 1 p.m., ordering a pizza, not talking to anybody, and watching Beastmaster and eating in your bed pizza, it's with the 13-year-old girl. No. So now that's become a running joke.
We have to you have to remember, we have to put it in context that it was a joke.
Because somebody's only going to
somebody is going to get that clip. It's just going to be it's going to this is the thing that's gonna be viral. It's just Henry going what's better than being in a hotel?
That's why pizza stop it in the middle of it. Yeah, because Yeah, now you can see things out of context. No, there was a callback to a funny thing that happened before.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I actually, I only stay with one buddy if I do, if I go to DC where I grew up, and it's like one of my best friends that I grew up with and stuff like that. And there's that kind of still very trust kin, very okay, I know, I do my spot, and if I need to sleep in, I sleep in, or if I need to leave her, and it's always 1 or 2 days. I don't mind that, but anybody else, I'd be weird, because then it's just like you said, it's and especially I think the older you get, the more you're like, no, I'll just pay for a hotel and I don't want to be bothered. Sometimes you just want to also for us to work. I mean, when we go there, it's to perform. So it's if somebody's in your house, they're like, all right, you want to have, and then I feel guilty, and then I have to have lunch with them, or and then it's but I gotta get ready for the show, and you're like, nah.
Yeah.
Headspace in the comfort zone, means a lot. You know? And it's hard to explain that to people sometimes. Some people just don't get it. They're like, why wouldn't you? Why would
they
you
don't get the fact that it's stand-up is we make it look so easy that we just go up. It's but all you gotta do is what do you gotta prepare? It's we have to prepare an hour of what we're gonna talk, but also the fact that mentally we have to get ready for a show to be able to do all the stuff that we do. So it's very hard. And then afterwards too, then you're drained emotionally, and you're like, I don't want to, some people, hey, come on, let's go. I'm like, no, man, I'll have a beer, but that's it. Or I just want to chill, because it's kind of going
you got to come down. Yeah. No, I think people don't think of it as a job. They think, oh, he's just doing this for fun until he gets a real job.
Yeah. Well, there is
you always get the whole
Francisco, you touched on it as well, that sometimes people also, if they invite you to stay over or something, they think you're gonna stay on all night and be on. And
that's annoying too.
And sometimes they don't understand. It's best that I go and hide away right now. You got all of me at the show, and now I'm exhausted, and I need to.
And I don't want to perform like I'm like a puppet all for 24 hours. It's no, man. That's the thing with that. I think I would get that. I mean, that's when I stopped, also for colleges, where people be like, hey, you want to come afterwards, and we'll buy you dinner and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, but then you have to do another show for them at TJ Fridays. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Oh man,
and then you get that crushing line from one of them at some point, which will be, you're not as funny off stage. Right?
Oh man.
Oh gosh.
I had that happen at a friend of mine's party one time, where this girl I was talking to said,
make it
you don't seem like you're a comedian because you're not funny in real life, and it's the best line I've heard is Jake Johansson was always like, well, I'm not doing it now. It's you're not always doing it at that moment. But anyway,
if you're a mechanic or a doctor, why aren't you doing it right?
If you're a stripper, you'll be like, well, you don't look like a stripper. I'm not stripping right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was really a lousy thing to say, and I told my friend, and I regretted telling him, because then he banned her from his parties.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, ooh, and he told her why too. It's no, because you insulted my friend, and I'm like, this is getting a little out of hand. They're having a big argument with their friendship. I'm sorry, your friend's such a pussy that he can't handle somebody saying something.
That's hilarious.
I was.
No. Yeah, it just gets worse.
And then I'd see her around town too. So, that's the guy who I got banned from this guy's parties because he can't handle. Yeah, it was really bad.
He couldn't handle me heckling him off stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I wanted to go back to the guitar, not to bring bad memories, but obviously that's a thing that you bring with you on the road. But is there anything else that you bring that's superstitious or that's sentimental to you when you travel?
French.
Wait, JJ always wants to guess.
I'm gonna guess. Well, I was thinking. I mean, as I touched on I was thinking, he's a musical comic. I knew that he'd have guitars that are lucky, so I'm 100% assuming that we're dealing with a superstitious guy. Because if I assume.
But what is it?
Stuff, so.
What is it? JJ? What is it? I thought you were supposed
Guitars?
to guess. Is that what you're guessing?
No, I was guessing yes. I always guess whether or not.
Oh, I thought you were gonna guess what he brings.
Well, I'm gonna guess a French press for coffee, for no reason at all.
That's so crazy. Yeah,
really?
I did get as far as actually saying that.
Oh, he said it. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm being told I'm loud. Sorry, guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, are you staying at somebody's house right now?
They don't know that I'm here.
It would be great if Deborah just leaned in right now and went, "You're not being very funny."
I know. Yeah, exactly.
It'd be funny. Like he's like, I just stay in somebody's house. I'm on the road, and like they have dinner right now.
Yeah, totally. Wait, to answer your question, French press coffee maker. Yes.
You bring that on the road with you?
Yeah, I loved it, and it was a ritual every morning.
That's the way you go like.
Yeah. I would. How did I handle? Sometimes the water out of the faucet was hot enough, but then sometimes they'd have one of those hot water heaters that they'd get me. Or what I would do is I would run the water empty, or through the coffee maker in the hotel, so I'd have some hot water, and I'd put the really good coffee in my French press and do it that way. It was just a treat that I enjoyed. I think one of those things got into the coffee series in some way eventually, because there were some mishaps for sure.
Do you still do that? Like if you would travel right now, would you still bring it, or?
I don't think so. I think because if you're traveling, since I'm not really traveling for work as much. Now, my last trip that I did was Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which was a beautiful little town. And there were a lot of great coffee shops there. So
there's
just
places that you can just go.
Yeah, I think nowadays it's so plentiful. You just throw a rock and there's a coffee place that's mad because you threw a rock. But But
that's very true.
Yeah.
Henry, man, you've been awesome. We don't have much. We've almost come to the hour, but we still have Francisco and I have lots of questions that we usually ask people. We'll try to trim them down. I'm trying to trim them down in my head now, but I love that we touched base with the fact that you were in Britain those many years ago. And one of our questions is, so you know very well the British drinking culture now, because you and I shared, because you and I wouldn't even have considered that being our first meeting, but that is when we first met.
Yeah, and 9 years ago.
And it was very hard drinking. I think we were each on hard drinking tours at that.
I mean,
which was lots of fun.
It was fun, and also the only way to get through. Yeah.
And I just, so that was, to me though, that was British culture. That was the way I spent a lot of my early stand-up years. But I'm wondering, is there anything cultural that you've discovered in your travels that you wish was bigger in America, like something that you'd like to introduce to America, or I mean, maybe the opposite. I don't know if maybe you wish that British people wore more baseball caps, but I somehow doubt that that's
exactly.
Thing.
Man, I think it's what you said. I mean, it's that culture of the pubs, I remember having so much fun. Everybody was so friendly. I got along with everybody, and laughs and jokes. That happens to a certain extent in the US, but I don't know. There was something about it out there that was a little different.
Yeah, you're right. It does happen a little bit, but even here, where I'm living in Hollywood, I've got this I got a taco place by me. And in fact, our listeners and followers on Twitch and stuff, they'll be aware, because I always talk about Taco Tuesday when it's Tuesday. And in Britain,
the taco place is called Whole Foods, by the way.
Oh, wow, that sounds good.
No, I'm kidding.
And in Britain, we used to have a 2-for-1 pizza place that was in a pub at my corner, and a lot of us comedians would go. It was Monday nights, and we'd have no problem gathering. And I have to say, I've been trying for Taco Tuesday, because I've got several comedians who live here on my street and stuff, and we do it. But it's a bit more hit and miss than the British culture, because I think British people love hitting that pub and having dinner and greeting each other and having a couple of drinks before wandering home. And that is a fun part of their culture.
Don't you think it has to do a lot with being in LA? Because I'm assuming if you're in some middle part in the country of I mean, people are probably going to that bar all the time, that Monday or something.
I don't think it's necessarily to do with LA, but I think there's more of a suburban culture here. There's more Americans tend to have all of the entertainment in their homes. I think, Americans have bigger TVs and the nice coffee makers and all that kind of stuff. So
French
I think
press,
communal.
Yeah. And so I think that's why for British people, all of their nice stuff is at the pub.
Yeah,
I got it.
No, I have some extremely fond memories of all that. That was really cool. I can't really come up with something right off the bat, but then I don't have quite the experience. I know for one thing, it's been 9 years, but in terms of international travel, but I'm sure that at the time there were.
And I think you would do great in international travel, though. Like, I think people would because your comedy is very. I feel like it's very universal. Like it's some stuff that's not that you don't need to be living in the U.S. or know certain like U.S. references to get it.
Yeah. Well, this is one thing, and I don't know if this is. I definitely felt that when I was in England. I was like, wow, this is going better than I thought. There were some really rough ones. London was probably the roughest one, but.
Oh, really?
But all of the more provincial areas were pretty fun.
Why was it rough in London?
Just because it's a big city, and it was probably a little bit more. They were there to see Stanhope, so there was one guy yelling throughout the entire thing. Just
what
you suck so bad, get the. And I'm just like trying to ignore it, but it was so huge. He was getting drowned out, so I was like, I don't think anybody can hear the guy.
You don't by chance remember the venue, do you? It wasn't up the creek, was it?
The Hammersmith Apollo. Yeah.
So, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, it's 3,000 just really drunk people. But by that time, I had already done so many of them. I was just kind of immune to anything that could happen. As long as nobody was hitting me in the face with stuff. But that was but the one thing that was happening there that has not happened here. I've opened for comics here. That are 1,000-seat comics and stuff like that. But out there on Stanhope's tour, I had a guy who would go up and play the guitar and do all of the sound checks because it was just sort of assumed that was. I feel like they had multiple people doing various jobs on that tour that I don't see here in the U.S. on even big money tours for comics. For my experience, I've never had somebody here who. It's always like you got to show up to your sound check at 5:30, otherwise you're a prima donna. And I went with it. I'm like, okay, but out there, they were like, no, we'll go over there, and everybody has to know how to play guitar. Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Nice.
That's something that I could.
That's funny. That's good. That's a good idea. I also wanted to quickly going back. I forgot to ask this question, but like. We're growing up because you grew up in California. Any fun memories or stories of traveling with the family, like as you were growing up and stuff like that your parents took you or anything like that?
I've got one that came to mind right away.
Nice. Yeah, that's the one.
I was born in New York City. And we lived there until I was about 10. And then we moved out. And I lived in Englewood, New Jersey for a little bit. And then we moved out here. And when we moved out here, we were all from New York. And we were used to a certain thing. And we were, like everybody, we're having a hard time making the California thing happen for us. And my dad we were trying to find a place, but everything wasn't working out. Everything was either too expensive or we're too far away or whatever it was. And we were all taken out on each other. My brother and I were fighting in the back seat. My mom was fighting with my dad. We were fighting with each other. And there was one, and it was like a really hot day, like 100 degrees. And we're driving down like the freeway, like the 10 freeway or something. And we were all so angry that we all turned into just stone silence. Like nobody was saying anything. We're all just like, it was just such a shitty day. It's like we had to go to the bathroom. There was like, we had to get water and we didn't know where to go. And then we're in a traffic jam and all this stuff. And all of a sudden some asshole in a convertible came over. Wait, what was the deal? He was behind us tailgating the whole time. wanting to go like 85, and my dad's doing the speed limit or whatever. And we're just like, who's this guy? And then he comes by and goes around us and then flips us off. And then, oh man, that guy unleashed some shit. Like, I just remember my brother and I rolled down the window, and my mom and my dad was pretending to drive into him. I'm like, fuck you, you fucking son. We'll fucking kill you, bitch. We'll kill you. And the guy's like, the guy had no idea who he was messing with. And my dad was like pretending to like he was going to run him over or something. Like, we had so much hostile anger, but it just, after that happened, and the guy sped away, our whole family just started laughing for like 30 minutes. We couldn't stop laughing at the guy's face. We did kill the guy. No, but that was just something that I really remember, that like, if we hadn't all laughed at it, if we hadn't seen the humor, then I think it would have been more dysfunctional. But we just were like, what happened to us? What did we become?
Yeah.
And, wow.
And that's the day you guys became true Californians.
Yeah. We were like, it was like New Yorkers in California.
That's a great lesson in breaking the tension as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's how it's done. We were all sitting here tense and hating each other,
but
and then we
needed that. We needed that.
But that is so great, because of like, you were fighting hot, and then it's like you guys got quiet, and it's like, I'm not gonna talk. And then this guy came, he's like, Mom, and it's like
he came at the wrong time.
Yeah, he had no idea who was messing.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah, that's that guy became Bill Gates, by the way.
Yeah, probably. He was probably like an agent or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, really?
He looked like a real California stereotype.
That's really cool, because I mean, I'm sure you understand this, but so many comedians, especially that we've been talking to on our podcast here, it's all family holidays in cars. I think it turns us into comedians. There's I don't think we've had any, Francisco. Have we had any that are like, oh, well, we used to fly to the Bahamas or whatever? There's not been any of that.
Dave Williamson.
Oh yes, that's right. Dave Williamson.
He actually flew to the Bahamas.
That's right.
Wow.
He had nicer holidays. But so for the most part, it's like 95% of the comedians are all like, we were crammed in the car, hating each other on a family road trip.
Oh, you did the train.
Wow. Train, yeah. My dad didn't even. He loved the train. Country? We did it LA. We did New York to LA a couple of times. New York to Florida. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh wow! Yeah, I didn't even know Americans. I had no idea Americans even.
I came to really love it. Yeah, Robert Reed, TV's Mr. Brady, was on our train. This would have been like in 1980 or something like that, and he was in the bar car just having a cigarette and like a martini, and he had that big mustache and. It was really, I was pretty starstruck. I was like, wow, that's cool. Robert, Mr. Brady hanging out on a train, partying.
Wow. Was he looking for, because he wasn't married at that time. You know?
I'm not sure. Was he married ever? I don't know. I don't really know,
I don't know
what his story was. I mean, we know a lot of what his story was. But
But I think train is really cool. I think train is like really cool. It's a thing that I wish it would be more important here. You know what I mean? Like,
I hope they do some investment in it, because it's a great way to travel, man. I would do that.
For sure.
If you could have a train that goes 150 miles an hour, you could do a gig up,
Of course. And also the fun part is like, it's kind of like what happens when you go to New York and do spots over there, that you're going in the subway from one club to the other. And then you're like riding in the subway or listening to your sets. So it's like, because when you're driving, it's hard to concentrate while you're listening, from one set to the other. But when you're in a train or something like that, you can really
have your laptop and you can go to the cafe, get a coffee. Yeah, it's a great way to travel.
I'm looking forward to them just extending this train line here in Los Angeles to the airport. I couldn't believe
it's going to be amazing.
This is my first time, because of course I lived in London all those years, and Manchester and London and Edinburgh, you get the train to the airport basically.
I know.
And it's so weird in Los Angeles. It is hard getting out of that friggin' airport here in Los Angeles.
Amazing. Well, I saw it happen in Minneapolis. I saw it go in real time, like go from, you'd have to drop $30 on a cab ride once you landed at the airport in order to get to the club. And then all of a sudden the train was done and it was $1. You take $1 and you get on the train, and it would drop you right at your hotel. And I'm like, that's such a no-brainer.
Well, in DC they have it in DC because the subway system in DC is great. And like, I mean, even when I used to live, like it was like an hour from DC. Like there's a state that it drops you right in the airport, like right away. Like boom, you just walk into the gate basically. So it's kind of like I hope that happens here, because I mean that would make it so much easier just to go to the airport. You know, you don't have to like, because it's all Uber. I mean, it's such a small airport too. It's like the LAX airport is like so small that like there's so much traffic all the time. It's
God, it's hell. Yeah. It's total hell. Yeah,
it is crazy. It's gonna be great when the train line gets there, and you can just like in all the other cities, man. And by the way, just a quick hello to all the raiders that popped in on the stream here. We've been raided by another by the charity stream, by the John Hastings Chris Betts charity stream. I'm glad things went great for you guys.
Oh, cool.
So hello to all of you.
Boomerang.
Yeah, so thanks.
Welcome, Raiders.
Thank you. Welcome, Raiders. And we're just you've showed up just in time. We're just wrapping up. We're here with Henry Phillips. And we've had it's been an awesome session with him, talking about all his travel and his comedy and everything. We'll be posting links and stuff. I mean, Francisco, unless you have anything to ask Henry on the way out, we can throw to our.
Yeah, I wanna mention your cat behind you.
Yeah.
The cat is very popular with.
On one side, there's that, and the other side is the Jeff Goldblum staring at
Look at that.
So is that an original Goldblum?
Yeah, that's an original Goldblum. Yeah. That's well, he's famous on YouTube.
He loves to sing, right? He has a band, right? What does he play?
Which, the cat or the
Goldblum.
The cat.
Oh, Goldblum. Yeah, I know he's a piano player. He's like a jazz piano player, and apparently he's really good.
Yeah, I think he does like shows where he plays jazz or something, right? Like I think it's like which.
That's it won't be the first thing I do once we're done with quarantine, but it'll be on there. It's on the list.
I just mentioned it because I thought you have a pillow of him. I thought you were like.
Oh yeah, no, it was a gag gift.
Oh, okay.
But it works.
But nothing against him.
Well, what is the first thing you're looking forward to doing when things free up? Like I'm assuming here in Los Angeles, do you have a favorite pub or bar that you want to get down to?
Shortly before the pandemic, I went to a place in the Valley called the Maui Sugar Hill Saloon. I might be getting that slightly wrong, but if you type something like that into, it was like in Tarzana on Ventura, and it was blues music in a great bar in a mini mall. And I was like, this is really fun. And then it's been, since before the pandemic. That's one of the first things I'm going to do. That was a great time.
Nice.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I mean,
Maui's Blues?
Sugar Hill Saloon.
Sugar Hill Saloon. Okay.
Yeah. Just put like Maui Saloon, Tarzana on Ventura Boulevard, and they have open jams, and they have like celebrities drop in and do blues music, and it's really a good time.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Wow, man. Yeah, that sounds cool. Francisco and I, there's a thing that I've been doing, and I've got Francisco involved now too, but I've actually been buying tickets to all these little pop-up things that have been showing up. I don't know, on social media and stuff. So there's a Banksy one coming, and I contacted Francisco right away. I was like, go to the Banksy one with me. So we've got tickets to Banksy. There's a Pink Floyd one coming. I keep setting up those tickets. So I'm intending to get all these, art installation-y pop-up things when the world returns.
Oh, that's going to be great. Yeah, that's
probably.
Cool.
Yeah. Hi. Well, yeah. It's into the Banksy one is opening in September, by the way. So
they say June 15th, everything's 100% open. So.
Yeah, I mean everything's pretty much open right now. I think it's like
I think it's just live events have some limited capacity, but other than that,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not the first to make this joke, but like having limited capacity at a comedy club I'm not a stranger to that.
Yeah. I think we're all like, I've done this bit before. Yeah, that's not
unusual.
It's actually you're more surprised when it's packed.
And they wear masks at my shows for some reason too. So it's not anything new.
They wear masks after my show.
Yeah.
But I went to the Dodgers on Friday, and it was
how was it?
10% capacity.
Wow.
Were you sitting in like because there's vaccinations?
Yes, there is.
Stuff like that?
There is a vaccinated section. I didn't know. I assumed the whole place was that. Yeah, I took my card with me. I thought you had to be vaccinated. I realized that you didn't. It was at 10% capacity, and there was a vaccinated section. But I will say, you can get food. There's no queues. It's a little bit themed. Like it's a little bit like private theme parky right now.
Better.
10%.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. So
I like 10% capacity and a lot of stuff.
yeah. I'd like if they could keep that tradition.
Yeah, 100%. Buddy, we've kept you for longer than we promised.
That's all right.
And you've been absolutely amazing. We have one last question that we always ask our guests on the way out the door, and it is: do you have a favorite piece of travel advice that you like to pass on, or that you've been given?
Travel advice. Oh man, let me think about it for a second here, because I know there's probably a few of them.
No worries. Can we say hi to Deborah? Can I say
yeah?
Say hi to Deb.
I want to say hi
in the
to
kitchen.
Deb.
Deborah, do you want to pop in and say hello?
Yeah, how are you?
She's gonna come by. I'm trying to think of the travel advice that I've been given. I can't think of it at the moment. Yeah.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah. Man, and I've probably even had advice that I gave everybody. Man, I feel awful because I've got dead air.
Don't
started thinking about it.
Yeah, don't leave your signed guitar in the
back
of your
friend's
car.
That's a big one. There was some stuff with the guitar. I would never ask if I could take the guitar. That's a big one. I would just take it. Because the people, when you ask them, they'll always say no. But then I would just put it through the security. There were a couple people like, why is that okay for this guy to bring a huge thing that obviously doesn't fit? But I would just do it. And then when I'd get to the gate, I would just wait. And then finally someone would say, yeah, you can't take it on. But then they would gate check it for you. And that way you're not paying for it. It was like a little valet thing, and you could see it the whole time. So that was a whole different thing. So that was pretty good. Don't ask, just do. Easier to get forgiveness than it is to ask permission.
Sometimes
that's right.
That's exactly it. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. 100%. I used to do that. When your backpack's maybe overweight or something, leave it so that nobody can see it, so that they can't see it at the check-in. Go grab it and just go through security, because security never asks. Security doesn't even ask if you have a laptop bag in your backpack. So that's a good. That is a very, very good strategy to
never get one. Don't ask. Just sit in the seat that you want to get seated, even if it's first class, and be like, "Hey, I'm here." It's like, "No, sir, but you gotta go to coach." No, just
and then just hope they forgive you.
Man. Man, Henry, thanks very much for joining us, man.
Yeah, really thanks, guys. It's really good to see you. I'm looking forward to everybody getting back out there, and let's all hang out soon in real life.
Oh, sure. Let's go to listen to some blues in Tarzana at the Sugar Plum Maui.
That's good enough.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you very much, Henry Phillips.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Henry.
Cheers, bro. See you soon.
Bye, hello.